All right, welcome to the Maricopa County Logic and Accuracy Testing for the Glendale Goodyear elections to be held on May 20th. I'm Christine, I'm the Deputy Director of Elections overseeing tabulation. And with me here today, I've got Renee Suava, our tabulation manager, and then of course two observers. We have Craig Berland from the Republican Party and then Jasmine, I'm blanking your last name, Pernicato from Goodyear. So we've got a city representative and a partisan representative here to witness our logic and accuracy testing. I'm going to allow them to get started. The first thing we start with is checking to make sure all of our machines on our election management system are at 0 before we begin. So you guys can go ahead. All right, thank you. Thank you. For those of you who have never seen a logic and accuracy test before, we are going to be doing the test in several parts. We start with, like I said, checking to make sure all of our machines are indeed at 0. The next portion of the test will be confirming our accessible voting devices are prepared for this election. So we will be firing those up, making sure that the audio functions work, the touch screen functions work, that the various languages, English and Spanish, work, and that we can produce ballots from our accessible voting devices so those can be deployed for early voting. Next, we'll do a central count test. We'll make sure all of our equipment is prepared and ready to count ballots. And then we will be moving after that over to our adjudication system, making sure that that system is ready to accept ballots that are damaged in some way that the central count machine cannot read the votes, that making sure that those devices are ready to be used. And then we will read results at the very end. I will be popping in to explain the various portions of the logic and accuracy testing throughout. A few facts to start out. So this election is for Glendale and Goodyear. Glendale has 2 citizen referendum on the ballot, and Goodyear has 6 questions on the ballot sent from the city council. There are 88 different ballot styles, and we will be testing 103 ballots overall as part of our logic and accuracy test, which includes early, provisional, and accessible ballots. So every single precinct included in this election will get at least 1 ballot as part of this test. And additionally, we will have some, like I said, provisional and accessible ballots included. All right, they're moving over to the accessible voting device test. We will be testing 5 accessible voting devices. And we will be making sure, like I said, that the audio function is working and that the various languages are functioning and the touch screen is functioning so that if a voter chooses to use the accessible device, we know that every single one of them is ready. All right, and I will let them begin that test. So we're going to be starting the central count test now. This is where all ballots will be tabulated for the Glendale Goodyear elections. As a reminder, if you need to register to vote and you live in one of those cities, the deadline is today. Either turn in a paper form to the recorder's office by 5 p.m. today, or you can use servicearizona.com until 11:59 p.m. tonight. All voters, this is an all ballot by mail election. They will all receive a ballot in the mail. Those ballots get mailed out on Wednesday, so on the 23rd. Should be received within a few days of that. If you will be out of town for this election and you need to request your ballot be sent to another location, such as wherever you are vacationing or out of town at, you can do so at request.maricopa.vote. We always recommend that folks check their voter registration status at ballot-ready.vote prior to the close of the voter registration period, just to make sure everything's up to date. That's ballot-ready.vote. All right, and this is the central count test we're doing. 103 ballots, just working our way through them, and then we'll be back for adjudication shortly. And then you guys will do numbers because we'll be done tabulating. Okay. Am I live? All right, excellent. So this is some basic error testing we do as part of our logic and accuracy testing. There are 3 different tests we'll do. One is, as you see, we're using red pen everywhere because red pen cannot be read by these devices. So we are going to confirm that indeed red pen cannot be read by these devices. I'm going to run this ballot, accept it, and then when we go over to adjudication, we'll see that it appears blank to the machine because it cannot see this red color. Next, we will do a test to make sure that if the timing marks are damaged, that this machine does reject the ballot. So if a voter tears their ballot, marks in their timing marks, or otherwise disrupts them, this machine, our tabulators will not accept the ballot. So we're going to run that, and this one will actually be rejected. And then this is a wrong election ballot. So this is a ballot from the primary election, actually, is what it is. But in the election procedures manual, it says for a logic and accuracy test that ballots shall be accepted from the current election and shall be rejected from another election. So this is to, confirm that piece of the logic and accuracy testing as is required. Yeah. Any questions? All right. So this one's going to be the one that gets accepted. All right. And I'm just going to go ahead and accept this batch. Okay, and then our first reject. And you can see it says exception was found, ballot was not counted. View the ballot, and you can see it's even indicating on there at the bottom that it was not accepted down there. Didn't quite, not quite reaching the correct thing. All right. Hard to do this with a mic in your hand.
I know.
You usually don't. Yeah, there we go. All right, and then this is our wrong election ballot. And you see the same thing, ballot was not counted. And then it has all sorts of errors on the timing marks. It can't make any sense of them. All right. So that is our disaster deck, as I call it, or error checking deck, which is, I think, the more correct way to say it. All right. And then we're going to have you guys go around and check the numbers on all of the devices. That's the next step in here. So we're going to confirm the amount of ballots that were counted on each machine and have the party sign off on it, which is part of our regular testing our regular process. We do this at the beginning and end of every shift during the regular tabulation. We check how many ballots were counted at for previous days at the beginning of every shift, and then at the end of the shift, how many more ballots we've counted. And then for the following day, we would confirm that no ballots have been counted overnight, that the numbers match from the end of the shift to the beginning of the next one. So we're just doing that regular processing. Okay, so we have confirmed the number of ballots that were counted, and now we're heading over to watch adjudication. And once the observers get here, our adjudication boards can begin. Adjudication is the process whereby if there is a machine that you guys can start. If there is a ballot that cannot be counted by our tabulation equipment. So, for example, there is a contest that is overvoted, meaning too many choices were selected, or a ballot that appears totally blank to the machine. it'll send it to a board, a Democrat and a Republican, as you can see by the colors of the lanyards that our team members are wearing. A Democrat and a Republican will review that ballot and see if what the voter's intent was. So if the voter did genuinely overvote a ballot, they did genuinely fill in yes and no, then the board will leave it as an overvote. The vote will not go to either yes or no, it will go to the overvote category. But sometimes there is a correction mark made on that ballot. A voter filled in yes, just changed their mind, crossed it out, and then filled in no. The adjudication board would then be able to see the voter's intent, and make the correction to ensure the ballot is counted the way the voter would like it to be counted. During the adjudication shift, adjudicators will keep a manual log of every ballot they have made corrections to. And then at the end of their shift, they will compare that to a system-generated log that shows them all of the actions recorded in the system and confirm that the two match. The Democrat and Republican will then sign off on their logs, confirming that they do indeed match, and they will turn those into an independent inspector. Those independent inspectors are also available during the adjudication shift and will act as a tiebreaker in the event that a Democrat and Republican cannot come to a decision. More often than not, though, these independent inspectors are able to mediate between the Democrat and Republican and have them all come to the same conclusion, or are just there to help remind the Democrat and Republican of the rules, as sometimes, after long shifts, they might get an unusual ballot and need some reminder of how to handle that. One of the ballots where I'm going to point out when it comes up, if we see it, is the red pen test ballot. The red pen test ballot will appear blank to this equipment. And here it is right on this machine. I don't know if we can see it but if you guys want to see the red pen test ballot, it is over here. You can see that this was the ballot where every bubble was filled in with red ink. And you can see that it appears blank. All right, you guys can complete that ballot. Okay, and it looks like adjudication is done, so the adjudicators will close out of the adjudication program, and then we will get results ready to read. Probably shouldn't make funny faces. All right. We do have a slight hiccup at this moment in time. Very normal thing that happened. A human made an error. This is the number one thing that happens during a logic and accuracy test that causes a slight delay in us getting to results here. So on the accessible voting device, we have a very specific script by which we vote each of those ballots to ensure that it is voted correctly, so that the tabulator counts it correctly, so that it ends up in results. One individual ballot was not voted correctly. They voted for the opposite choice that they should have voted for, which would throw results off. So they are re-voting that ballot right now, and then they will add that back into the batch that it should have come from. It will then retabulate that whole batch, and then come back over, re-adjudicate that whole batch, and then we will be ready for results. So a few moments more, but it's a very common thing, not unusual to happen. A human made a mistake. We're all humans. We sometimes make errors, and we are rectifying that now. Thank you. All right, so here is the ballot that was voted incorrectly. As you can see over on your left-hand side, we have question 1, and it should have been voted a no. And then on the accessible ballot, where we have the voter verifiable trail, we can see that question was voted yes. Supposed to be voted no, and it was voted a yes. So that was the error that was made. We've reproduced a ballot that now has the correct votes on it. They've retabulated the batch to make sure that the correct votes are included in the total, and they're now going to adjudicate that batch. It'll take a moment, and then we'll be ready for results. All right, we are now reading results and comparing between the baseline results and the results that were produced today to confirm that they match. And it shouldn't take that long. There are only 8 items overall. Thank you. And our results are a match. So we have successfully passed our logic and accuracy testing for the Goodyear and Glendale jurisdictional elections. Election day is May 20th. The voter registration deadline is today. Make sure you have that voter registration either in person by 5 p.m. today or 11:59 online at servicearizona.com. Make sure to check your voter registration at ballot-ready.vote. If you live in Goodyear or Glendale, your ballots will be mailed out on Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to our observers for coming. It's not the most thrilling work, but it's really important, and we really appreciate you being here. And thank you to all of you for watching at home.